Oh, you know what? Cody did something with the Dude Perfect guys. Did something with them.
Yeah, they did something with me too.
Dude Perfect did?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Like this last month.
Who was it?
All of them. Yeah. Tyler got on a bull.
Bro, that is awesome and really frustrating because I've been talking to Cody for 5 years.
Cody Jones.
Yeah, because Cody and I, you remember the summer after.
I knew you were cool with one of them. I didn't know who it was.
Well, I know all of them. So 3 of them used to come to the church, and the twins used to come to Citizens. Yeah. One of our elders was the part of the original group. His name's Sean. So remember in their early videos, the guy that would go, "Dude, perfect," that noise, that was Sean.
Oh, okay.
And then Sean wanted to become a doctor, so they bought him out. And then I can't remember who replaced him. Anyway, there's just a lot of overlap between those guys in the church. But 5 years ago or whatever, when I told Cody, I was like, I've got a buddy who is, anyway, and I just said that y'all should make videos together or do something together. And he was like, yeah. And then I've literally told him that probably every 6 months. I'm like, hey, you've got to. And then I called him the other day. We had talked or something. And I was like, hey, I'm telling you, you guys need to, this could be mutually beneficial for both of you guys, And because I don't know how in tune they are with the rodeo audience, And he was like, you know what? I think we might be doing something. I think Tyler's going to get on a bull or something like that. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm glad it happened. I'm not saying I need credit for it, but.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you credit for it. Yeah.
No.
So would Tyler know you by name?
I think so. So.
Anyway, I talked to Tyler the most.
Okay.
He reached out probably a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And saying, talking about he wanted to get on a bull.
Okay.
And it slowly, came up.
Has the video come out yet?
No.
Okay.
But they all 5 came out here.
Good.
And Garrett got here first, and so I got to visit with him for a little while, and then Tyler, and then the twins, and then Cody. But yeah, I could see you and Cody. I mean, I could see you getting along with all 5 of them. They're all great dudes, but I see a lot of similarities between you and Cody.
The twins, their dad is a pastor, and
super nice guys.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Garrett, his brothers are at Citizens. So his youngest brother, they lost a baby about 3 or 4 years ago, August, and so got close to the kind of the whole family through that. Tyler's the one I know the least, but I've been there and when they were, the reason I brought it up is because when they were about to go spend time with maybe it's the same people, maybe it's not. There are other Mormons that own a mountain thing, and they were going out there and they wanted to just be able to know.
They've done something with Mountain Ops.
Okay, so I went over there,
and it is Mormons that own Mountain Ops.
Okay, well I went and had lunch with them, and we just talked about
Mormons.
Nope, with Dude Perfect before they were going out there. Just talked about what we believe, what they believe, how to maybe have conversations about that. So
like throwing stuff at them, throw the book at them.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad that it happened. I've been, yeah.
Well, we got started. I got this made for you. I wanted to give this to you.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Dude, thank you. This is your Bible.
Yeah.
You want these pictures back? Or can I have those too?
I was just joking. That's the one you gave me.
Oh.
Yeah, like 10 years ago.
Oh, no way. That's awesome. And I did that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I remember. Yep.
I didn't expect you to not remember.
I'm sorry.
I thought you were...
Dude, I'm sorry.
That backfired.
There's been a lot of life that's happened between now and then.
Yeah, that's true.
A good Bible.
Yeah. There's, I think in there is the... Oh, yeah. Surely you'll remember this.
That's awesome.
The birthday buck.
Yes, dude. That's amazing. Man, is this your Bible? Like your Bible?
Yeah,
Bible?
that's the one. I mean, that's the one I take to church with me. And then, like, this is my study Bible. I have an ESV that I write in. This is the one here that I keep just at the office all the time.
I'm telling you, dude, it's like, I was thinking about this coming here. I don't know if you feel this way, but it's the older you get, the more rare it is to have old friends. You know, like
right.
We don't talk a ton.
Yeah.
But like the fact that we can go back to certain pivotal moments of life.
Like when you gave me that Bible.
And I'll never forget it. Yeah. Yeah. But just the fact that we can go back to those pivotal moments of life and it's like, you know, you were there. We were there. We were with one another in it. And it's just like that. I was talking to my daughter last night. She's like, "Where are you going tomorrow?" And I was just trying to describe our relationship. And it's like, you know, I actually met him before I met your mom. And we've known each other for that long. And it's just...
So in a lot of ways, you're closer to me.
Yeah. 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 You've impacted me more. Yeah. It's just awesome.
In some ways, you're not, but in other ways.
Most, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget about that when you met her. And she was kind of like on a date with our other friend. And you were like, "I'd like to date her."
Yeah. I don't know that she knew that she was on a date with our other friend. I think he was the only one who thought that. But yeah, that's crazy.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
It's going to be really funny to me if Cody and them came out here and Cody did not make the connection.
He didn't.
That you were the guy I was...
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I knew you were one of their buddies. I just didn't know which one. So, like, in that moment when we were all five, them five and me were on my back porch eating lunch right before he got on the bull. It escaped me because I didn't know which one.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I should have just asked them as a group, but anyhow.
No, I don't. It's not on you.
Yeah, it's on Cody.
It's on Cody.
Yeah. Thanks,
Great.
But then saw him again at the rodeo. He got on at a bull riding.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and got on a real bucking bull.
No way.
I mean, I put him on a real one, but it's like a jump kicker, and then I had 3 other jump kickers just in case so he got on all of them, and but
Addie was wondering what a jump kicker is.
Okay. So a jump kicker for Addie, because you know,
right,
you know, would be just like, not like, it's maybe something you would get on at a junior high or a high school rodeo.
Yep.
It's not something that, number one, guys like us would get on.
Right, yeah.
At a rodeo.
Uh-huh.
It's not that rank.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if I was going to, back in the day when you were running around with me and Pop, it's a jump kicker is what I would have put you on. So anyway, he got on some of those, but then he was like, "We need to finish this at a rodeo." And so I was going to bring the bull to the rodeo because I was like, "Dude, you don't need to enter. Like, you've only been on a handful. They could run something in there that inevitably you're going to draw the rankest bull in the pen.
Yeah.
And it could be something going to the NFR or something.
Yeah.
Which is our Super Bowl of rodeo.
Totally.
Happens in December. Yeah.
For Addie.
And so he's like, "All right, I'll let you bring the bull." But he's like, "I want a bucker." So I sent him like 3 videos of bulls that were just above a jump kicker. And he's like, "No, man." So anyways.
Wow.
I'm not going to spoil the ending, but he's a real one. I'll say that.
Did he get injured?
I mean,
you can't
again, I don't want to spoil the ending. He gets to go on tour. I'll say that.
Wow.
Because he's going on tour for his Dude Perfect show.
Yep. I thought you were saying he did so well that he's like starting a rodeo career.
No.
Okay, got it.
I'm not necessarily that. I'm just saying, like, he's not so injured that he can't continue on with his tour of Dude Perfect. But
did you enjoy him? Did you have fun with him?
Oh yeah, he really is like a unique and different kind of person.
Yeah,
like he could have been a bull rider if he wanted to choose that life.
Yeah,
like he's got that lead in his pencil.
They all genuinely love Jesus.
I can tell that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was like gone to a booth I was in Sacramento, and I'd just been away too much. And I was like, really, it's hard sometimes with some specific problems I have as, I guess, a YouTuber and an influencer, because sometimes I feel like they're so specific that it's hard for me to ask just anyone for advice. And so, as a fan of what they do, I was like searching out. He seems like someone, Tyler and any of the dudes, that I could ask advice of. It's like, hey, this is the path and the trajectory I'm on. How do I deal with this problem I'm having? And so I watched like just Dude Perfect interviews that were like behind the scenes or serious, or, you know, and he did a series with the I Am Second.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do them, but his was from a few years ago. And man, I was borderline crying because like everything he was going through was the exact same thing.
What is it? What resonated about it? Just the
similarities, and then also it just answered all my questions. And so, but I say that to say that it was all based, and the solutions that he ultimately helped me arrive at, the foundation they were built on was his faith.
Yeah.
And that's what made me think of this, is because it's like not only him, but the other four, they're all Christians. And so it also makes sense how 5 men can, you know, stay in business successfully this many years, you know, 12, 15 years, however long it's been. And anyhow, hearing how like on tour they decided to start sharing their faith on stage, you know, there'll be 10,000 people there.
Yeah.
They were super nervous, but they just felt convicted, compelled, convinced that they wanted to do it, and then got such a positive response from it, and that's pretty brave.
Have you heard it? Have you heard how they? Have you been to? You haven't seen or been?
No.
It's like a non-performative, simple Jesus like message. It's really it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I've heard different ones of them do it, but they basically talk about how there is no one that's actually perfect. They lead into like the Dude Perfect.
Oh, that's
name,
cool.
Except there was one person who was perfect, and because he was perfect, he makes room for all of our sins and failures and imperfections and all that. And it's like it's I think it would be easy to go like gospel light in that and be like, hey, if you want to have questions about God or something like that. But what I appreciate is they just, a very true, biblical, simple, Jesus saves message. Have I told you my Cody Dude Perfect story? I think we've talked about this. So Cody they were doing part-time videos way back when. Cody was doing student ministry at a church in Plano, actually.
You mean just Dude Perfect was part-time?
Yeah. All of them. I think maybe one of them was doing it full-time, but it was like they graduated and they're doing their, they all have like jobs, like normal jobs. And Cody had an opportunity to go on staff at a church down in Austin, great church. And he called me. He's like, what do you think? And I was like, dude, that's a great church. That's a great opportunity.
Dude,
you should go.
Perfect. You should go do that.
Dude, perfect. And then he calls back like a week or so later, and he's like, hey, the twins want to, and I might be getting the details wrong, but whatever. The twins want to do Dude Perfect full-time. They think we could go full-time with Dude Perfect. And I'm like, so you'd quit your job? And he's like, yeah, we'd quit our jobs. And I was like, well, what about Austin? What about, and he's like, yeah, we wouldn't do that. We'd just go. And I said, hey, man, I think the trick shot thing has been really cool. It's been like a good like side, but I literally these are my little. I think it's run its course, and you should go to Austin. You should do that thing. He's like, okay, yeah, thanks, man. And then he ghosted me for like 6 months, and like we did, I reached out, hey, what are you thinking, whatever, and then we're watching a football game, and one of them is in an airplane dropping a basketball out of an airplane in like a Chevy commercial. And it was like this huge break, that they had gotten. And I called him and I was like, hey, I just want you to know that 99.9% of the time, the advice I gave you was good advice. But every time it, it comes up, it's just like that. Because yeah.
That's hilarious. What year was that?
Gosh, dude. I was in San Angelo still. 2010, 11, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a friend that had because I wasn't full time either. I was okay. Yeah, because by the time I was full time, they had been full time for a few years. So it's not like you would have even I was just thinking like, dang, you got this friend that's been doing YouTube, but I wasn't even close to.
Yeah, it was early for them. In fact, I think it's funny to have two separate relationships that kind of struck gold in in this space, whatever you'd call it. And it's just like, it's really rare.
So I have maybe this week sometime, if not this week, next week, I should hit 700,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Amazing.
Which is super exciting for me, because I've been doing YouTube for 12 years. So in 2 weeks will be 12 years, July 1st.
Wow.
And so 700,000 in 12 years. They've been doing YouTube for like 13 years, and they have 62.1 million subscribers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're doing a little something. So I appreciate that you put Dude Perfect and Dale Brisby in the same category, in your friends that quote unquote struck gold. But they're doing something super unique that.
Yeah, but they got to split it, so.
Yeah, they got to split it 5 ways.
Yeah.
So what is that? 12 million subs per,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think like when I think of it, it's like, okay, if in those early days I would have described what Dale is now to you then, you would have thought, oh, that's a dream come true.
Yeah. Man, I there's not a day goes by that I do not take what I have for granted. I know that, and it's just, I think it's just because, I've had a real job before. I've been poor before. I've been unhappy before. I don't know. Every single day, I thank God for what I've been given, and I act as if it's going to be my last day, and one day I'm going to wake up and everybody's going to find out I'm a fraud. And,
well, what I love about you is it's always been about more than just you, and the opportunity to build something that could, yes, entertain and I think put on display a world that has always meant a lot to you, that you grew up in, but then also just to bless people and to, leverage what you believe, your values, to be what I love about you, dude, is you're so unwavering in your convictions. There's a way to just sell yourself out, and to divide yourself up and offer a version of you that you feel like everyone else wants, to the point where you don't know who you are anymore. And you've just refused to do that in such a righteous, God-honoring way.
Man, I appreciate that. You gave me some advice early on. I guess, I don't know. I'd made
Was
some.
it after the Bible?
Yeah, it was. Okay. It was after you gave me the Bible.
I'll never forget giving you that Bible, man.
Yeah,
never.
But I think I had a Facebook. I definitely had because I had a Facebook first, and then a couple of YouTube videos, and then I got Instagram, and it started to become a system that I was putting into place. Creating content, that is, and we started to put out videos more consistently, and it was less of just like when the mood arose, like it was just more like, no, we're going to try to make a schedule for it. And so I began to feel convicted that I needed to have some type of, to be honest, like almost a sermon every other video, and you and I talked about that. And I don't remember exactly how you worded it, but essentially it was that I could respect the fact that God made me a comedian in this space. Cause it was obvious to me that God kind of ordained that the line of work I was going to go into with the way that FFA molded me, my dad, the friends I had with, whether it was Peyton being my lawyer, Randy when he came in, Leroy. So the people were instrumental. Also, like, I was the class clown. So I wanted to lean towards comedy. I also had this passion for rodeo. And so that was kind of the lane I was in as far as content. And everything was just, not to mention the timing of the internet. Had all this happened 10 years prior,
right,
it wouldn't have even been, it would just been, they would have been random facts, And so they all came together. It's like, this is God's plan. And so I began to feel convicted that, I needed to turn into this preacher of sorts. But I don't know, we had kind of a conversation, and maybe you can speak to it now, but it was like, I can respect where God put me, this cowboy comedian, and I can be a Christian in that. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be a pastor and, just replace everything with being this missionary on the internet. And then you did say that most of my mission work, to use that term, would be like belly to belly.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've always respected that, I think, because anybody can say anything on the internet. And it's just real easy that, you can just plagiarize something. You can, even if you come up with it on your own, like, the fact that you're able to like communicate what the Bible says doesn't necessarily mean you're living it.
Yeah.
It just seems a lot. And I'm not saying nobody should share the word on the internet, but for me personally, I try to sprinkle it in occasionally when it's appropriate, when it's authentic. I definitely don't shy away from it when it comes up, but I do fancy myself like a cowboy, comedian, YouTuber that's also a Christian.
Yeah.
I don't know how to word that. Where it doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, there's a quote that I always thought was C.S. Lewis, and I found that it wasn't, which is a bummer. But it's the idea is if you're a shoemaker, if you're a Christian shoemaker, so a cobbler, you don't make Christian shoes by etching little crosses on every shoe that you make. You make Christian shoes by making the best possible shoe you can make. That there's something about working with excellence for the glory of God that is itself a testament to God and to your faith in God. And there are, and the point is it's like if you put crosses on poorly made shoes, then there's a way in which that's a hindrance, right? And so as you're doing your work, as you're building what you're building, as there is this internet economy, and there's going to be a lot of different influences on that, the more well-meaning, Christ-exalting influences that are in that space, the better it's going to be. And it doesn't mean that every single, it doesn't mean that there needs to be like a gospel presentation at the beginning of every video and a gospel presentation at the end of every video. If you think about your life, you're probably the people that you named, the influences in your life, the way that who you are today has probably been less about things that you encountered in some speech or some sermon or some video, and it's more about who people were to you personally, conversations that were had, right, one-on-one, the shoulder-to-shoulder, to face-to-face kind of stuff. And so I think there's a vision for how to be a witness, how to have an influence, how to live in God's world, God's way, leveraging the space that God has given you, and then just being wise and discerning. There are people that you have influence on that if you had been super aggressive about your faith in the beginning or even now, that you just would have lost, your voice would not mean anything in their life. But something about meeting them in that kind of middle space has been, yeah.
Yeah.
12 years in a few weeks.
July 1st. It will be the first YouTube video.
Wow.
So like 2010.
Was it the one where you roped a pig?
That was like the
over
third one.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one was not long after the first one.
Because that was the first one that got a lot of traction, right?
Yeah. I mean that one was kind of and a lot of traction is relative. You know, at the time it was, you know, maybe 30,000 views on YouTube, which was a lot at the time, but for me, looking back, it was a lot in the niche of rodeo and ranching, and so that's what it was. It was a specific audience, and I think that's helped me and hurt me in ways too. You know, like it's helped me in that, like, if I go to a rodeo, they're gonna know who I am. But I think too, it is very narrow. It's a very narrow lane compared to mainstream. Whereas Dude Perfect,
that's the subscriber difference, right? It's like it's almost like if you have the biggest church in a small town, you know, you might have a 400 or 500 person church. So it's like
4,500 is a lot.
4 to 5, no, 4 to 5.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I mean the niche is. I imagine what you have is the equivalent in some ways to that. Just because of what who you're trying to reach and who you're not.
Yeah, and I, you know, the flip side of that coin is I wouldn't trade my lifestyle for a bigger following.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Peyton told me that one time. He was like, man, your business is going to grow to a point where it outgrows that little town you're in. You're going to have to go to Fort Worth or back to College Station or something. I was like, man, if it plateaus me, then let it plateau me, because this is the lifestyle that I just have to live.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, I drove here from Plano. Where we are right now is very different than where I was when I got in my car.
Yeah.
Okay, so 12 years and 2 weeks. What do you look back on and think, I'm really proud of that? A video, a moment, a decision, it doesn't have to be serious.
Well, I guess there was a moment where I started to have a belief that it was in 2015 when I moved here. You know, I was working for Chet. They sold the ranch, so I moved here and I was rodeoing, day working for Chet. Lived in his office, and bought this little house on the edge of town, and so Chet sold all the yearlings in May, and it's like the end of May, beginning of June in 2016. And I was like, man, he said, I guess I'm going to start buying cattle again. And I was nervous because I was his go-to guy for taking care of his yearlings. And he was like, all right, I guess I'm going to start up putting some on grass. And I said, man, I think I'm going to go do this deal full time.
And I called you and I was like, dude, I think it's run its course.
And my granddad definitely said that. He's like, you need to get a real job.
Yeah.
Verbatim. And
which granddad?
Both of my grandparents kind of alluded to it, which was weird because, you know, Bob was the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe he thought he was the only one that could
By
be
the way,
successful.
Maybe the worst afternoon of my entire life was when we cleaned floors in that train depot or whatever it was. You remember that?
Yeah.
That summer that
Yeah, scraping the stuff off the floors.
Yes. It was like 120 degrees.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah. That's what you go back to for whenever you're like, I love this job. I'm so glad I'm not doing that.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm glad I got to be a part of the worst job you've had.
Yeah.
But no, that moment where it was just like I bought a house and also went full-time rodeo time. And I guess, you know, it was that Cody moment for him. I just saw an opportunity. And I probably could have gone full-time sooner than I did, but I was, you know, trying to be conservative and wanted to, but I don't know, that looking back, it was just kind of,
you took a risk.
Yeah, it was you know, and somebody said, you know, risk is something that's in front of you, But then when it's successful and you look back, people call it an opportunity.
Yeah.
But when I really put myself in that moment, like that was a risk. It was very risky. And I don't blame my grandparents for suggesting I needed to get a real, my dad he had passed, 2 years at that point and 3 years. And, sometimes I wonder what he would have thought, but I mean, he would have been supportive. I mean, I was a dang rodeo cowboy, and so was he. He's not going to like throw rocks at me for going and trying that. That was safer than rodeoing. I don't know why he would have been opposed to it.
Well, and I think so much of who Dale is the personality that your dad celebrated. He nobody laughed harder at you than your dad. And nobody celebrated the goofy, like your dad did.
Man, there were 2 moments that it was just like, the first time I spurred a bronc at a pro rodeo, it was like, damn, I wish he could have seen that. And then, I don't know, in high school, it was just like, I don't know if you were, like, you're talking to your buddies, and it's just like, all right, if I win the lottery, I'm going to give, because we're all in it together, me and all these high school in this small ass town, and everybody's poor, and we're not like, we're fine. We're in the USA, but we felt like we were maybe not doing that well. And I guess there was like, if you win the lottery, we're going to give all y'all this. And then we just had this agreement that if any one of us won and anyway, the other day we were having dinner and in my back porch, and I just know this one of those 5 buddies of mine is just not doing well. And so I just Venmo'd him this chunk of change. And it was just like this real moment for me of like, damn. Like, I didn't win the lottery, but it was like, it was enough that I was able to do that for him. And that was another moment where I wished my dad was there. I don't know why. It's not even, I don't know.
Oh,
that's a weird
he would be so proud
thing,
of this.
but like being able to help that friend that is not doing well, like me being just grateful I was in that position, and all my people on the back porch, and like just where my life has gone compared to where we were when I was little. I don't know, like that was cool.
He'd be so proud of this.
Yeah.
I think the challenge would be keeping him out of your videos.
Dude, it would be annoying. The ideas he would have, and the thought, like, oh, we should do this. And they would be good ones, but I wouldn't even have time to do them all. I wouldn't even have time to come up with my own ideas.
Yeah.
That would have been annoying. That would have been an argument point for us, but yeah.
Tell me, you talked about it was nice to have someone that you could ask questions about, seek advice from other like YouTube influencers or whatever. What are the pressures? Like what's something that's maybe uniquely challenging about doing what you do that most people just wouldn't think about or wouldn't ask?
With Tyler, like the kind of questions I would want to ask him are just like where to spend my time as like, just throughout the day. There's this obvious, there's ways to monetize what we do, with sales, you sell a product or you have sponsors, you offer a service. So the main thing is like selling your own product or having sponsors. And we kind of walk a line of like, people don't want to be sold to, but if you do a good enough job giving them free entertainment with videos and podcasts and trick shots and bucking out bulls, then it gives you permission to also say, hey, grab a ranch fuel here or there. But, you don't want to sell out. At the end of the day, you got to pay the bills. Yeah. And sometimes them just watching the video isn't enough to pay the bills, So like there's moments like that where, and don't get me wrong, it's not hard to get a sponsor, but you're constantly battling like, all right, if I get one more sponsor, it's going to be this much money, but then I'm kind of selling out. I need to value, because I can't have too many. There's a lot of things like that. Also, just where do you say no? Where do you draw the line?
Limits.
So like constant, can you be here on this date? Can you come to this on this date? Can you come to this on this date? And like rodeos everywhere or appearances everywhere. All those sponsors do need something from you. And you're just constantly, well, then if you sign up for everything, well, then you're not doing the main thing that drives it, which is make the videos. And so just really managing my time is big, but the cool thing is I love making videos. Like that's the part of the job I enjoy the most. And so when I get back here and I'm making podcasts or videos, that's when I feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
My cup is full. And so I think that's what's given me the stamina as a businessman in this. It's because the driver of it, what drives this is the content, and that's what I love the most. But every now and then you got to break away and go get paid.
Yeah, sure.
Make payroll,
Sure. In your 12 years, is there something you used to do that you don't do anymore? Like, what's a lesson that you've learned where it's like, if I could go back, I'd do it again?
I'm trying to think. That's a good question, but not necessarily. Like Jeremy Melanson, my other buddy, you haven't got to interact with him a lot. But he told me once, be careful what you sign up for, that it's not something you can't live without.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of those things is booths, and they're a pretty large percentage of our revenue. And so, like, I got a guy down in Florida right now at the Florida FFA convention.
Oh, cool.
And
just with all your gear and stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We go to a lot of the FFA conventions. I love those. Anyways, I'm trying to think of something we don't do, but I guess that's one of the things, like, I may have, like, signed up for, and not that I wished I didn't, but it's another one of those time things that comes into that really. What do I not do? Anyway, I'm sure it'll come to me tonight at midnight.
Well, there's also this happens and obviously our vocations are different, but what happens for pastors often is their influence will outpace their character, and they get a following or a church size or just an influence that their character can't handle. So if you read the Bible and it talks about the qualifications for a pastor, there's only one that has anything to do with ability, able to teach. All of the others have to do with character, like who you are when nobody's watching, right? So, it cares about who you are as a husband and who you are as a father, and it wants you to be self-controlled and not quarrelsome and not a lover of money and not addicted to things. And all of that is because it does not, what matters so much more than what you can do is who you are, like the integrity of your person. And one of the things that is a danger about this space is it's like it influence, the number of subscribers that you mentioned. It's like it just travels exponentially in a way that is like unprecedented in our time. Like the number of people that have access to you and your videos and all those kinds of things is you don't even know. I mean, there's ways to track it and get all that, you know what I mean? But you don't know the stories behind that. And it's like where there's a tension in when I could build and build and build, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to build something that is heavier than what my integrity can handle, because then it's just gonna, even if I succeed, I still fail. There's a way to fail by succeeding at what doesn't matter, or at least what doesn't matter most.
Part of me doesn't set goals at this point because I feel like, man, why limit what God has planned? Because I never would have imagined being here now. And I don't know how wise that statement is, or if it is at all, I'm saying, but that's just kind of where my mind has been. I just try to do the best I can with what I've got and deal with the opportunities when they get put in front of me. But how do you feel about, man, I feel like I've even gotten jaded towards some people that talk about faith online. Like it just, I don't know. I don't know if jaded's the right word, but skeptical. So skeptical. Like of sometimes when online preachers are talking, like it almost feels like a version of like, well, the TV preachers that we had growing up.
Yeah.
You know, that our parents were skeptical of.
Yeah.
I get that version now, and I don't know how to. Sometimes I feel like my discernment is on the money, and then other times I feel like, man, am I being judgmental? You know,
it's hard because like there are certain like popular, influential like Christian leaders that I've thought those things about, and then have either met or know people who know them really well, and it's like, no, they're the real deal, you know. Mm-hmm. And so then I'm like, well, dang, you know, I was judgmental or whatever. And then you know, the reverse has happened where it's like, oh, that person, yeah, it's just so hard. It's so hard. You don't know what you don't know. There are some things I watch out for though. It's like the online personalities that are overly emotional, where it's like you can tell they're trying to like stir something up. It's like more emotionalism. It's a little bit like surface level, you know. It's just trying to you know, I guess tickle ears or play to what people are feeling in a moment. The ones who are overly political, where it's like they're you know, either left or right, when they're leaning really far into, you know, like partisan talking points. It's like that. And they might actually believe that. I think there's a lot of foolishness in that. And then the ones that are overly about themselves. So it's like if they're overly emotional, if they're overly political, and if they're overly like self-promoting, it's like look, what we believe is we believe that there's one hero and everyone else is deeply broken and needy. So Jesus is the hero of the church. Jesus is the hero of Christianity. Jesus is the solution to all of our problems. And so it's hard to exalt him and promote yourself at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I think you know, it's John the Baptist where he's preparing for Jesus's ministry, and he says, he must increase and I must decrease. So I don't know how to reconcile that. You know, it's like if the call on the life of a Christian leader or teacher is a decreasing call, you are decreasing in self. You want your disciples to leave you and go follow him, which is what happened with John the Baptist. It's like where there's weight, you know, sometimes it's hard to discern this, but where it feels like somebody is trying to like build a brand instead of preach the cross, it's just, I'd stay away from that.
Yeah, I've had like this one preacher just like, he kind of eased up, but like would hit me up about coming on to my podcast often. Like it was his idea. And I just like, man, I just don't know about that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I feel like I should have to convince you to come onto my podcast. Like the fact that you're reaching out to me constantly about doing this.
I stopped.
Yeah. I finally gave in and let you.
Yeah, thank you.
Come on.
Thanks for having me.
But no, this particular, you know, he had a book, and which I don't see anything wrong with. Like, I love reading books about the Bible that kind of help me understand it. And so, like, I definitely don't mind a pastor writing a book, but also, like, at some point, you got to let that thing do its own deal and not, like you said, self-promote to a certain extent. But anyway, yeah, I don't know how to. That's three good. Do you feel like, I mean, is it okay for a pastor to talk about politics at all? Because there's a lot of people out there trying to decide. Yeah. And who better to help them figure it out than their pastor?
Yeah. So we, you know, before the election last fall, we did at our church a 3
Trump
week
rally.
Yeah, that's what we did. Yeah. I wore the hat and all that. No, we did a 3 week series on Christians in politics, called Kings and Kingdoms. And I think we use the word unprecedented all the time. And we've talked about like our political state right now as being unprecedented. And what's true is when Jesus is living and ministering and teaching in the first century, the political climate of their day was as messy and complex and controversial, if not more than ours, at least where we are. And so and people would come to Jesus with these political questions, and to like try to trap him. So they bring him a coin. It's got Caesar's image on it. They're like, should we pay taxes or should we not? And they're not asking him because they really want to know. They're asking because they're trying to basically trap him in this, like political lose-lose situation. And Jesus just has a way of cutting through all of that. And so much of his, like if you could summarize Jesus's politics into a statement, it's the kingdom of God is at hand. That's what he preaches. He preaches the kingdom. He preaches that there is a world that he is bringing that is not of this world, but it is for this world. That's what Jesus says when he's on trial with Pilate. Pilate says, you're the king of the Jews. And Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this world. And so I think what Christians have to maintain is Christians, and this is really hard in America because the genesis of America was so tied up with certain Judeo-Christian values. And not all the founders were actual Christian guys, but many of them were, and many of the things that America was based on were like, things that you find in the Bible. But the Christian identity is an alien identity. Philippians would say our citizenship is in heaven. It's not actually here. So our ultimate allegiance is to Jesus. And I think that is there's a burden on a pastor to beat that drum first, to beat that drum first. And to understand that our political discourse now is a discourse of fear. Politicians are peddling fear of the future and fear of the other. Not all of them. But the way the news cycle, there are all of these algorithms on what actually gets clicks, and bad news gets more clicks than good news does. And so there is a way that the systems have monetized fear, and they are going to try to make people scared and angry, because when people are scared and angry, they pay attention. And I say all that just to say that a pastor has no business in participating in that. A pastor has no business in participating in rhetoric that would dehumanize their political enemy. A pastor has no business in participating in rhetoric that would try to. So I've got a mentor. He pastors in St. Louis, outside of St. Louis, and he said, one of the things that you'll never hear Jesus say is, "Be afraid, run for your lives. The Pharisees are coming to take all that you have, or the Romans are coming to take your livelihood away." Instead, he said, "Don't be anxious about tomorrow. Don't be anxious about your life. God clothes the lilies of the field. God feeds the birds of the air." And so there is a kind of Christian grit, resilience, no matter what's going on around us, that realizes our hope is not in any politician. Our hope is in Jesus, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, who did not need to be elected. He rose from the dead, and he's reigning at the right hand of the Father. So I think it is important when people are sincerely looking for answers. I think it's important for the spiritual leaders to offer those answers, but it has to be built on a kingdom foundation.
Yeah.
That we're not engaging out of fear, we're not engaging out of hatred of other people. And after we've kind of set the table and all that, now let's talk about these things that are important.
I mean, for me, it's like, okay, say what you want about which side is more capitalist, which side is more socialist. To be honest, even guns. But when it comes down to like pro-life, pro-choice, it's like, man, I just gotta vote the side that's more pro-life.
Yeah.
And even then, it's just like, well, he's not even all the way pro-life. It's like, yeah, but he's more.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Like, to me, just my heart breaks when we start having that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it way more black and white. For me, I don't know if that's where, like, a pastor would... I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want anybody to take my guns either.
Sure.
But, like, if I got to figure out which topic is more important, that's an easy call.
It is, the great injustice of our generation is abortion.
Yeah.
And the millions and millions and millions and millions of innocent lives. I do think so. You know, there's a moral burden on Christians to not pick and choose which parts of God's heart to care about, you know. And so obviously God cares about the vulnerable. God cares about his image, and there is no image bearer more vulnerable than a baby in a womb. I think what I have grown, I am more convinced of that now than I've ever been, that God's heart is to protect the vulnerable in that way. I think what I think is important is to understand that some people who care about the image of God and care about vulnerable people can look out at both sides and just say, either way, one political side is not going to contend for some vulnerable people. And that's where it just gets really challenging. In other words, you can take your desire to see, like if you think about the Proverbs about God, he's a father to the fatherless and he cares for widows and orphans. You have some people who take the heart of God in that way and say, okay, well, I think these people are going to care for these widows and orphans, but then these people are going to care for these widows and orphans, and just grieve the fact that we live in a political system where we feel like we have to pick and choose which parts of God's kingdom to contend for. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously people are going to vote based on which party they believe is going to do more of that than the other. I just think we need a lot of patience and compassion for each other to say that it's.
So I guess that I have two questions. Like, personally, I think I told you that. The one I got to ask off camera, but the other one, like, I'm at an event the other day, and I sit down, and it's a guy and a girl, and she says something about how annoyed she gets at babies crying. And the way she said it, it made me think she had one, you know, and she's like, yeah, golly, you know, whatever. And I was like, oh, you have kids? And I just wasn't ready for her answer. And she said, almost. I sucked that one right out of me. And I was just like, my heart broke, and then my body and my mind, like, I just felt sick. I just, like, slumped in my chair and just went on and on about, like, just justifying it, you know. And the more she talked about it, it was just like, oh, she's trying to convince herself, even, whatever. And I began to wrestle with, what do I say? You know, and I think that probably my posture just kind of changing probably sent that, you know, like, I didn't act like I was about to fight her, but I'm sure she... Anyways, and then she's like, yeah, I love my cats. And so she's like, even my one. And then this other guy sits down at that moment. So he doesn't understand what the conversation is. And she's like, yeah, my one cat has... And he's like, oh, well, I could take care of your cat. And she's like, no, my cat's an angel. And that's where I was just like, yeah, her cat's an angel. She loves her cat. Don't touch her cat. And I got up and walked off. But I just didn't know what to say in that moment. And I felt convicted that, like, look, there's no way I'm about to, I didn't feel like I was about to influence or change this person's mind. I don't even know if I want to leave this in here in the podcast. It's just like, it really did, like, just, I don't know. I've been wrestling with, like, how do I talk to this person right now in that moment, or do I? And I was just because a pro-choice vegan exists, and that's probably my biggest pet peeve in this world.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt like. I was just like I don't know. Anyway.
You know, it's like one of the things that is hard about, like, the climate right now is how long had you known this person? When
just in that moment. That's the first time I'd ever talked to her.
Yeah. And so it's like, because everything is so public and because everything is so, polarized, it's like often you get forced into these situations where you're having to talk about the hardest things to talk about within the first few minutes or so of knowing someone.
I see what you're saying.
And it's like, that's not how our friendship started.
Right.
It's not like you and I met and it was like, hey, let's start with the thing that we did. Now we agree on a lot. So,
with the death penalty.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's even as a pastor, it's like sometimes people will, they'll want to meet. It's like, hey, I just visited your church and I can't understand how, there are people around the world that will never hear the gospel. And the Bible teaches that if they, died, then they spend an eternity separated from God. And I just don't think that's fair. So can we talk about that? And it's like, yes, we can talk about that. But this conversation, we're basically thrust into this relationship with one another. We don't know each other. I don't know your story. You don't know my story. We haven't spent any time together. And we're just trying to find wisdom and answers together around this very, very sensitive question. And it's just, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do. And so I think in some situations, it's like, you could be the most, like, winsome, intelligent, like, quick on your toes there is. I don't know what you could have said.
Yeah.
In that moment that would have. And it's like, you can pray.
Yeah.
Because God knows her whole story, and God knows where she has or hasn't been, and God knows if maybe there's like this view of the world that she has. Maybe that came out of like a deep wound in her life, and before she needs to be like reasoned into thinking differently, she needs to be healed, or loved. It's like that. Like, where there is opportunity to just say, hey, let's not start with this very complicated question, or let's not start with this thing that you already feel a whole lot of emotions about. What if we started with Jesus,
Yeah.
What if we started with, how does he interact with people? And what do you think about him? And, if he were the one who was hearing you talk about these things right now, how do you envision him responding to you, And obviously that's idealistic. You can't do that but I do think it's like in that situation, you walk away thinking, man, if I'd have just known in the moment how I could have responded. And I just don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I like my gut was like the battle I was having internally was just out of like, I don't know, my heart breaking. It's like I felt like I have to say something, or, but then the other side of me was just like, there's no way it's just like it ends well when I speak up. Like the way she was talking, her tone, her posture, like she's already saying her arguments. I haven't said a word. She's like saying things about this practice that nobody asked you that, like you're just, and so like she's ready, she's on guard, and I'm just like, man, this ain't gonna. So I just walked off, and I did that, just prayed that maybe there's something in the future, but yeah. Anyhow.
So we can take things out of this podcast? Mm-hmm. Can we take out the part where I forgot that I gave you that Bible?
No. That's staying in there.
Okay, great. Or we could just redo it.
Yeah. I was my expectation was you're gonna be like, no, I gave you that. And that was gonna be the joke that I forgot you gave it to me. But you remember you gave everybody on the team one.
At that lunch.
Yeah.
That goodbye lunch.
Yeah. I didn't know you were just going to leave all our memories at that lunch when you said goodbye.
Yeah, walked away.
Yeah. What else was I going to ask you about? What about that Matt Chandler character?
He came on, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
He was the one that was like, hey, I got to
about
go
the
on
book.
your podcast. No, I'm just kidding. It took some convincing. I mean, he and I are cool. He watches my story every now and then, and I'll DM him questions. But
didn't they all come out here?
Just him and Lauren.
Oh, really?
They all came out like a couple of weeks before.
His daughter
was dating and is now married.
They're married, yeah.
To someone I think who was a Dale fan.
Cool.
It was super embarrassing because she is probably more of like a casual Dale fan, which was fine, but I didn't really understand. Like they got a place close by, and so they were there, and I didn't even realize they had a place close by. So I thought they drove from the Metroplex to see me because she's a fan. Well, when people come to my warehouse, there's that big mural, and normally before they leave, we take a picture by the mural, because about twice a week, people will come to this remote area to shop. And they'll be kind of walking around and looking like, there's Donnie, and and so I try to break the ice, like, hey, before you leave, you want to take a picture about the mural, and they're like, oh, yes, thank you. So anyways, like they're about to leave, and I was like, so, hey, do you want to take a picture by the mural to his daughter? And she was like, no. I was like, oh, okay. I just,
So it was just you and him?
Yeah.
Took the picture?
Yeah. So, and, in her defense, like she was just like, they were at their place 10 miles away, and she came by to get a cap for her boyfriend at the time, who's now her husband. And I was just like, oh, okay.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I
think y'all got 10 minutes into that podcast before you started making fun of me. I remember that.
No, I think it was quicker than that. Yeah.
Is that when you sent me that picture of y'all?
Oh, doing that, yes.
Trying to smile?
Yeah, he later came and we did the Jamin smile. Here it is.
That's it, man.
Have you figured out how to smile yet?
No, I'm not even going to try. Yeah, I just stopped trying. Now I just look sad all the time.
Yeah, just
in pictures.
All your family pictures. It's just like...
It's actually a joke in my family where if we're taking a picture, my kids are so embarrassed of my smile that one of them will try to like jab me in the ribs.
To make you actually smile?
To make me actually smile. So,
yeah. I remember having like my parents telling me like whenever I was like a kid, like, no, actually smile.
Yeah.
But it kind of, eventually I learned how to smile.
Yeah.
And you just didn't.
I didn't. It didn't. Yeah. Never happened for me.
What are some of the challenges as a pastor that you have that you didn't see coming?
Well, I think, our church is in Plano, which is, just north of Dallas, and we're actually fairly politically diverse and culturally diverse. Some of that is just young and old.
Surprise.
Right.
It's Dallas.
So I didn't expect.
I don't even know why you went there. You should have gone to Fort Worth.
Yeah, I wasn't invited.
Oh.
I went where I was wanted. Yeah. There's so that has been unexpected. Some of it is, after 2020, things were already crazy, and then 2020 was just like fuel on a fire. So I didn't expect to have to navigate all that, all the political stuff. I didn't genuinely. I didn't expect to find as much joy in ministry as I've found in ministry. My dad's a pastor, so I grew up in it, and there were highs and lows and all that. But what the Lord's done, at least at our church and among our, team that's there, is there's just a tremendous amount of unity. We genuinely love one another. And, the men and women I get to lead with, and then just the people at our church are just the most sincere, Christ-like Christians I've ever been around. And so it's like, I feel like someone asked me, is like, hey, what do you hope is true about Citizens? That's our church's name. What do you hope is true about Citizens in 5 years? And my honest answer is, I just hope I don't screw it up. Like, that's what I hope. I hope in 5 years I have not screwed up what God is doing here, because it feels so.
We know you have that capability.
I could do that. And in the same sense, it's God's going to do what he wants to do. So it's like there's nothing that I could attempt to do at our church that God would allow if it was outside of his will. So there really is a sense in which Jesus is the hero, the Lord's answering prayer, and it's like there's a lot of conversation out there right now in the pastor world about how hard ministry is. There's some stat that 80% of seminary graduates are out of ministry within 5 years of graduating. There's kind of this mass exodus of people from church leadership that's happening right now. And I understand it, because there's a lot of really difficult things that are happening. And there's a lot of just these cultural shifts that just make ministry much more difficult. And ministry is deeply rewarding. Pastoring a church is it's hard to describe. It's hard to describe how if you lay down your motivations to God, confess that there is a part of me that's in this for me, and I repent of that, and I'm trusting God with that. I genuinely want this to be about Jesus and Jesus saving people and forming people into his image, and to just have, so it's 12 years this month that I've been on staff with this congregation, 6 years in the role that I'm in now. But there is
deacon.
Yeah, deacon. There is nothing as, the Lord's been so kind, dude. The Lord's just been so kind. There's a psalm, and it says, "I'd rather be a psalm." The numbers weren't originally there, so there's a psalm.
That's not a good excuse.
And it says, "I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked." And the idea is, I'd rather be like an outsider where God is than right in the middle of where God can't be found. And I just feel that it's like, it's an honor to hold the door. It's an honor to just be on the fringes of what God's doing. And there were times when I would not have said that, and the Lord, just in his faithfulness, has helped me get there. Yeah.
How has the internet helped or hurt that ministry over the last few years?
So one of the things that's happened is we did not do any sort of online before COVID, but we had to do online during COVID because I think for a month we didn't gather in person, maybe longer than that. And then, we continue to be online just because a lot of people, would rather stay home. And then, once everything was kind of back and normal, we were like, do we keep doing this or do we not? And we decided to keep doing online. The intention is not, to give families the option to either like watch from their couch in their pajamas or come to church. I just think you can't replace the embodied experience of gathering together with God's people. So it's best for everyone to be there in person if able. But what has happened is a lot of people who would never have walked through the doors of our church will watch online just to give, like, a friend, a coworker will be like, hey, you should come to our church. Like, I'm not doing that. But they will watch online. And it's like this easier, like this lower bar to kind of step over. And what we've seen is people who would never have come in person start watching online and eventually come in person because they've, grown comfortable. They've kind of gotten a sense for what the church is about and what the church is not about. And that's been a gift. I think the maybe where it's negatively impacted is it's just we live in a very consumer world. We live in a very buyer experience world. And, one of the things that we say at our church is formational, not transactional. In other words, we're not trying to build a business. I'm not a CEO building a business offering religious products to religious consumers. We're the family of God. We're the people of God. We're not transactional. It's not you come and you give your tithe and then I give you the thing that you want that makes you feel better about your life. We're here to be, it's Romans 8. God causes all things to work together for the good of those who love God, those who are called according to his purposes. For those he foreknew, he predestined to be conformed into the image of his son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. So the point of Christianity is becoming like Jesus, being loved by Jesus, becoming like Jesus. So the role of the church in the life of a Christian is to form Christ-likeness in men and women who follow Jesus. And that's what our church is about, that we want. But that takes high commitment. That takes more than this expectation that like church is a check the box kind of thing, or that church is I give this and in return I get that. And so contending against that is really hard, But
like that exchange is just everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how life is.
Right. We get transactional about our relationships. I give you this and you give me that.
Work.
Yeah.
Which is where we spend most of our time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been tough too, like as a CEO, I guess is technically what I'd be of Rodeo Time with, a bunch of employees, like where to draw the line between like, okay, this is the job you have to do. We are a for-profit business, and
right.
if you have to produce more than you cost each employee, essentially. And if you don't, we need to have a conversation. And then if you don't, again, we need to have another conversation. It's like, okay, well, now you got to go. You're not producing more than you cost. And it's business. And it's tough to draw the line there because it's like, you can charity yourself to bankruptcy if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And so, it gets tough because I do have a Bible study that I don't consider myself a preacher, but in 2020, I think it was, I got this, it's called Community. It's an app where it allows me to have a phone number and people can text me. And I text people back every day, but I can't keep up with all of them.
Yeah.
And essentially, it's very expensive, but it's for marketing, because I can categorize different people. If they want to text me about being an intern, text me about a discount code, text me about. And so like I don't text a lot about t-shirts, but if we got a buy one, get one going on, I'll text it out, or a new video drops, then I'll text it out. And so that was in 2020 that it started. Well, fast forward to like 2022, I was like, I guess maybe I'll put one of my personal Bible studies on YouTube, but it's on unlisted. So you have to have the link to watch it. You can't search it. And it was shortly after reading Mere Christianity. And so the chapter about pride just kind of blew my mind. And so anyways, what my Bible studies were about is kind of irrelevant to the point I'm making, but essentially it's like, hey, I'm going to do this Bible study. There is an extra step involved to watch it because I'm not a preacher. I don't fancy myself a pastor at all, but text the word Bible to this number and I'll text you the link. And it was this extra step that I wanted people to take if they really wanted to hear what I'm studying. I'm not necessarily just like trying to tailor a Bible study for a group. This is what I'm studying, and here's a recap. I guess that's why I brought up the pride thing, because a lot of those Bible studies were very repetitive, because I'm studying the same thing over and over. But that's what I needed.
Yeah.
Regardless, people would text me the word Bible, and they might get one or two Bible studies, but then they also might receive like hey, buy one, get one on Brisby on rodeotime.com, you know?
Yeah.
And there were some people that did get upset,
Yeah.
you know? And I had to explain, like, look, I'm not a preacher that's selling T-shirts. I'm a YouTuber, and I have an apparel line, and then occasionally I'll do a Bible study.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying maybe a preacher shouldn't have a that's just not what I am. That's
Right.
not what I'm doing here. I didn't stoop you in here. But this app with my phone number is very expensive. And I didn't just go get it just for this Bible study. I had it first, and I'm using it for that. But that's just one of the ways where it's just like and then also there's just constantly things like people reaching out that are in need, or, you know, it's like, man, I can only do so much, and I kind of have to pick and choose, and navigating those, the exchange comment you made, you know, the transactional comment you made, like, I kind of just have to go with my gut, you know, like my buddy that was in a bind.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of felt obligated because I do feel like I won the lottery. And so I did send him some money because it's like we had that conversation in 6th grade. But then every now and then somebody's just not working very hard around here, and I got to let them go.
Yeah. And it's like, that's not, you know, when somebody is, well, it is the difference. I mean, it's like you run a business. I don't, you know. I think the other thing, though, too, is it's like you have to, when you get to those moments, it's like you have to be really confident that, like, I can stand before God, and God knows my heart on this, you know, where it's like if you pay it, you know, it's like, don't let compliments go to your head. Don't let criticism go to your heart. And how do you keep compliments from going to your head and criticism by going to your heart? By caring most about what God says and by caring most about what God thinks. And it's like, okay, so I might be misinterpreted, and people might think that I only did this Bible thing to try to sell them shirts. God knows, you know. It's not my job to convince them of that either way.
Yeah.
And it's like there's this freedom in just. Did you read the book? I saw the Keller book on your table before we started.
Yeah.
The self-forgetfulness. You know?
Yeah.
It's like that. So much of that is what Lewis teaches on pride, where it's like pride is not thinking less of yourself, or humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's not having a low view of you. It's actually just having a high view of Jesus that makes your view of you like less present in your mind. You know, you're not thinking, how am I being perceived in that sense? And so it's like that any sort of leadership, leading a church, leading a business, it requires this, it's not just thick skin, because that can make you like a jerk.
Yeah.
But less than thick skin, it's just like heavy feet. You know, you are where you are, you're planted where you're planted, and you're not going to be like easily knocked over by one thing or another. I've learned that.
Where is pride in your walk? Pride and humility over the last 10 years of your walk, I guess. And where was it when we were running around?
Oh man, you know, I graduated Bible college thinking I was God's gift to the church. Like, had all the answers, knew what was wrong with every church, and I could be the solution. So that was more a traditional sense of pride, where it's like, some of that's just youth, and then some of it's whatever. I think there's another form of pride that I've wrestled with later on, which is not pride as arrogance, but pride as insecurity, where there's a kind of pride where you like puff out your chest and think you're better than everyone else. And then there's a pride where you kind of like hang your head and you're like, oh man, I'm not good enough. You know, they're both pride because they're both about you. You know, whether you're thinking too highly of yourself or you're thinking too little of yourself, you're still thinking about you, you know. And there's an insecurity about stepping into the role as pastor for me, where it's like I didn't think I knew enough and didn't think I had enough, and I didn't think I was like, you know, moral or good or sinless enough for it. And then the circumstances of our church is I was really kind of, not my choice, kind of propelled into the role. And
So like you were like, all right, he's the only option.
Yes, that's right. It's like
if there was someone else, believe us, we would have picked them. But
it's like if the last pick for the kickball team was also the only pick. You're like, okay, come on.
Gotcha.
And
so that's how you got the job.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've had to. There's a way to like. There's a way to be so scared of appearing prideful that you actually abdicate responsibilities that God has given you. And so King Saul, on his like day of being anointed, to be anointed as king, he was hiding in the luggage, basically. So there's a kind of person that tries to like, storm the throne and like sit down and take all the control. And then there's a kind of person that tries to hide from it. And both are leadership failures. One lacks the humility that says this isn't all about me. One lacks the humility that says, I need to step into what God has given me to do. And I think that latter part is I've been trying to learn that, where it's like there's a way to get trapped in your sense of not enoughness, where you end up hurting people because you're so consumed with your own insecurities that you're not being a blessing. You're not giving, what you have to offer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that opened my mind up to just how infiltrated pride had become into my life was whenever he says in there that, one of the things he starts off with is that the more angry you get at pride, the more you have it. Mm-hmm. And he says that pride is competitive. Like all pride is competition. He didn't in there say that all competition is pride, but he says all pride is competition. Pride means enmity. And, I began to really start realizing how much I do compete when I step into a room with just typically other guys, but, some things, like if somebody wanted to really test my knowledge of golf, then I'm, whatever. That's not my thing, you know, and I could probably let that argument go. But if it were, bronc riding or, something maybe in the gym or something, just that a guy would, fancy himself knowledgeable on, like those kind of things, I would really compete.
Yeah.
And I realized that was actually pride.
Yeah.
And even my walk, there's ways that, people would, and he talks about like how, like that's like a huge thing where guys will abstain from drink and women and all these things in the name of pride, which blew my mind. And it made me kind of rethink. And I don't want to be too hard on a younger me, because I do think for the most part, a lot of the decisions I made were for the right reason, but I know some of them may not have been, meaning like I'm walking the straight and narrow so I can puff my chest out about walking the straight and narrow.
Sure.
And so it really made me rethink my entire walk with God and just who I am, and really just kind of identify. But it also made me realize like how everybody seems to get along with and love a humble person. Like a prideful person can get along with a humble person. Humble people get along with humble people. Two proud people can't, because they're constantly competing. But that humble person, it's not that they're going to lose to the prideful person. They're just not going to get in the competition.
A couple of things you said. One is like that pride often grows in the shadow of our strengths, So you don't care about winning the argument about golf because you don't identify as being somebody who's like great at golf or cares about golf even, But if somebody were to come after or challenge you on something that you feel particularly gifted at. It's like there's a shadow on the other side of those gifts, and that's where you start to identify with those things. I was listening to a basketball podcast, and a guy who is like a Hall of Fame player was talking about the biggest free throws he ever made. Some game, it was at the end of the game. If he missed them, they lost. If he made them, they went into overtime. And he said, when I stepped up to the free throw line, I knew my life was on the line. And it's like what he means is my identity, my value, everything that I've worked towards. And it's like, and he's telling the story because he made the free throws, and it's like, it's a success story and there's, whatever. But it's like that's a really dangerous way to live, to say something about you, that my life is so tied up in how I'm about to perform at this, that my life is on the line. Like this is life or death. And it's not an actual death. It's just the death of the who you think you are. It's the death of what you find value in. So often what pride is our attempt to protect the things that we've built our identity around. And so if somebody challenges that, it's like a fight response to it, because if they are better than me at it, it's not just that they're better than me at it. It's that I don't know who I am anymore, But the thing you mentioned about humility and like how everyone's attracted to it, there's only one place in the New Testament where Jesus describes the nature of his heart. It's Matthew 11. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. My yoke is easy, my burden is light, for I am gentle and lowly in heart. And both those words, gentle and lowly, they speak to the humility of Jesus. He says it in Matthew 5, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And Jesus is humble, not in the way of, humble is not powerless. I can't remember who, somebody defined it as meekness is strength under control. So it's not that there is a powerlessness over his circumstances, but there is an active decision to use my strength for your good, not my own good. Not use my strength in a self-protective way or in a self-promoting way, but use my strength in a selfless way, which is what Jesus does, which is what true humility is. True humility is like even being gifted and strong and having resources to then have a view of my life and the life of others that asks, how can I? So when somebody walks into a room and they're just happy to see other people there, it's not, I'm scared of everyone in this room or everyone in this room is better than me. It's, I'm happy to be a part and I'm happy to use my strength and my gifts for the good of the whole, not just for the good of myself, which is the heart of Jesus. That's Philippians 2. Have this mind which is in you, which is also in Christ, who didn't consider the form of God something to hold on to, but he humbled himself and he became obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross.
The greatest sin is what he calls that chapter, and it's like, I think it's 14 pages. I've read it probably 30 times, maybe 35. But this book, Humility by Andrew Murray, was written in like 1884.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind. And just some of the things he says and like how important it is, but you can have no more faith than you have humility.
Wow.
Is what he says.
Is it written in like Old English?
It's hard to understand.
Like the thous and thys and
a
all
little
that?
bit. They try to like you can because if you buy 3 of these, they'll be different. Like they've been kind of like, maybe it wasn't even written in English. I don't know, but I don't know a lot about Andrew Murray. But this book this is my favorite way that it's written, and that's why this one's so broken apart. I have a couple of versions of it, but there is, I can't remember what page it's on, but he says basically humility is so important as a Christian, except with gratitude. I can't remember. I shorten the version up whenever I'm talking to. What is he? How does it actually go? Except with gratitude. Sorry.
I don't know if everybody can see this, but those are pictures that you drew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
Doodles.
a sun and a stick figure.
Except with gratitude, everything that God allows from within or without, from friend or enemy, in nature or in grace, to remind you of your need of humbling and to help you to it.
Yeah.
So like water always fills the lowest places. The lower, the emptier a man lies before God, the speedier and fuller will be the inflow of the divine glory.
Goodness, that is so good.
May God teach us to believe that to be humble, to be nothing in his presence, is the highest attainment and the fullest blessing of the Christian life. We can never have more faith than we have true humility. But essentially, like, no matter how bad life gets, like the worst thing that can possibly happen in life, we should be grateful for, because that's how important humility is, which is a terrifying thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, dang, how hard will I have to fall if God needs me to get humbled?
Yeah. This last weekend, we were in 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. And the popular verse is 7, cast all your anxieties on God because he cares for you. But it's actually one sentence in Greek. And it starts with, humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. So there's this relationship between pride and anxiety. And obviously anxiety is a big word, and people experience it in a lot of different ways. And some people experience a kind of anxiety that is physiological, right? But there is this sense in which often when what I'm saying is humility is just the answer for everything. Like, there's this sense where when we're feeling anxious, we'll think, man, if I was more in control of my life, my anxiety would go away. Or if I knew more, had more information, my anxiety would go away. Or if I had more money or something like that, my anxiety would go away. I just don't think we think, if I were more humble, a lot of my anxiety would go away. But it's this idea that so much of what's happened, there's a form of pride that says it's all on me to protect myself from what I'm afraid of. And the Bible says, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, casting your anxieties on him, basically acknowledging, I can't carry the weight of my worry. I can't carry the weight of the things I'm afraid of. So I have to hand those things over to God, who can carry those things. And even if bad things do happen to me, I'm trusting that God's going to work it out because he's promised to work it out in his time.
I just feel like anytime I have like a conversation, like, I don't know, over the last couple of years, it's just like, oh my gosh, I have been so blind to how big of a deal this is, pride and humility. And just some of the things here in C.S. Lewis and Andrew Murray and even Timothy Keller talk about, it's just like, why are we need to talk about this like every day. This has got to be the biggest issue across, in the country, in the world, in churches, in families, in any relationship. It's like if everyone would humble themselves, like it's just crazy. Like wars would end.
This is the point of the book of Proverbs. All of wisdom is a product of humility. So at the beginning of the book of Proverbs, he writes, and he talks about who he's writing to. And he says, I'm writing to the wise that they might have understanding. Well, why do the wise need wisdom if they're already wise? Because the beginning of wisdom is knowing your need for it. Like the beginning of wisdom obviously is the fear of the Lord, but the fear of the Lord is a humbling yourself under the character of God. And so there's this idea that that foolishness is about not knowing. But I know so many people who are good with information, but they're really bad at life still. Because foolishness is not about what I don't know. Foolishness is about being unchanged by what you know. And the difference between the things that you know making you wise is if you've humbled yourself underneath them, right? So the image that he uses where it's like it flows to the lowest valley or something like that. Well, what that means is that you have to lower yourself into that valley for those things to flow into your life, It's like the difference between somebody who is, if wisdom is water, it's the water that runs underneath the ground, and you can't get it by standing on your feet. You have to get on your hands and knees and drink from it that way. And it's just this, yes, it's like the key that unlocks so much. The temptation in Genesis 3 was a temptation to pride. It basically was did God really say?
Yeah.
You can become like God.
Right.
And it's this elevate yourself, exalt yourself, instead of being humbled under the merciful care and presence of God. And yeah.
Yeah. And
I think why it's important though, is when your biggest category for what sin is that sin is pride, it keeps you from dividing the world up into good people and bad people.
What do you mean?
Okay, so what's easy to do is to say these are the really bad things like murder and whatever, right? And I've never done any of those things, and so I'm okay. So I've got this long list of things I've never done, and then I've got this, long list of things that I've done right. But if the question is, have you tried to replace God with yourself? Everyone's answer to that is yes. And some people do that in really in really sinful, egregious ways. But then other people, this is the older brother in the parable of the prodigal sons. The younger brother runs off to the far country, and he, it's prostitutes and partying and all that kind of stuff. The older brother runs away from the father too. He just runs to the porch when the younger brother comes home, and they're throwing a party, and he doesn't want the younger brother to get grace. And he says to the father, I've served you, obeyed every command, and you've never given me a goat to celebrate with my friends. The younger brother tried to use the father by taking all of his stuff. The older brother tried to use the father by keeping all the rules. But both had this relationship with God that was a prideful relationship with God, and they needed to be humbled. Yeah.
Dang. Can you go get Cam? I got some questions from the audience. Cam said he wanted to ask one, but it was too complicated to type out, and something tells me it's not that complicated. Cam's just kind of, I don't know, his intelligence level is. What's his deal? Yeah, no, he's a good kid, and he's been through a lot. How
that was a really funny segue after our conversation about pride and humility.
Oh no, yeah, no, I mean, no, I got to work on it. But this kid, once you meet him, he is something else. He is something else. Yeah.
How? Who's your favorite podcast guest?
Man, I'm glad you asked that, because a while ago, it's having Matt on. You've been on before, obviously. Like, these are moments where I get to like learn and advance my faith, and hopefully it helps people that listen to my podcast. But Trevor Brazil is, I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah, of course. I have a poster and all that. He's Rodeo
guy. Okay,
Rodeo.
there you go. Yeah, 26
record holder, right?
Yeah,
of all
there you go.
Kinds of.
Yeah, 26-time world champion.
Was he on the Netflix show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but like on the timed event into the arena, he's won everything, all of it. But he's won 26 gold buckles.
Amazing.
Just nobody will ever do that again.
Yeah, amazing.
And he and I have gotten to do some things together. We coached a team for the Kid Rockin' Rodeo.
Cool.
And, he did come on the Netflix show. I created some content for him once, and we did a 2-hour podcast, and some of the questions I asked, I was like, all right, well, it's going to be the cliche question, but I got to ask, and he's going to give the, work hard speech. But like what I was blown away by, and I'd had a sense of it, what I was blown away by was his humility.
Wow.
26 world champions and gold buckles. And, I mean, you see guys that they just went to the NFR one time. They didn't even win a buckle. They just went, and you can't hardly be in a room with them. Their heads are so big. And this dude has done it all. And the way he talks about himself, and it was just so neat to see that, like, it's okay to be humble, and that, matter of fact, there's this guy out here who has done it. I don't know, like something about that podcast. I need to go back and listen to it so I can better word like why it's probably one of my favorite ones.
I wonder if there's not like a lesson that's available to people who have made it like that. Meaning, I've got a mentor who said there's no disappointment in life like when your dreams come true. There's a kind of disappointment when you can't reach your dreams, obviously. That's what most people know. But then there's a kind of disappointment when you get what you want and it's not what you thought it would be. And it's like as long as you're still on the, cusp, or as long as you're still like trying, it's like you can convince yourself that this will satisfy me, the next trophy, the next ring, the next medal, whatever. But when you're like the best and you're like the known best, maybe at that point you're like, oh, I know what this can do for you and I know what it can't do for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm sure there's some of that too.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't know. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard.
Well, I would because I'm Dale Brisby and I got
Yeah,
this
you
buckle. I don't know if you saw it.
I
World's greatest champion this year.
You're going to have to get a bigger one. I can't see it.
You can't see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, good.
You
Yeah.
Cam?
Yeah, so we're going to move into like some Q&A stuff.
Cool.
We're going to let Cam lead first because apparently his question is too long to type. Okay, well, I've got a bunch of texts, so I'm a very important person, and I can't, I'm going to have to rifle through a bunch. So I'm going to let you sit right here and ask him. You said one time, I don't know, it was crazy. You were explaining to me just kind of how you were helping a couple, and like it blew my mind, the thought of having to like help someone through that issue. And you were like, no, man, I love doing that.
Yeah.
That's part of the job. I mean, like we both know why Peyton is a great lawyer. And same with you. Like after that, I was like, this man was put on this earth to be a pastor. That would be tough for me. But anyways, Cam, come on in. Sit right here.
Cam, are you wearing your favorite Dale Brisby swag right now?
Yeah. Check out rodeotime.com and use code CAM for 10% off.
How do you decide when you get dressed in the morning? I'm sure that's not your only Rodeo Time hat that you have or shirt. Is there you just throw on whatever's like the least wrinkled, or do you have a process for it?
It's hot outside, so I try not to wear a black shirt.
Okay.
And that's about it. I've worn these jeans 4 days in a row, so
That's awesome.
nothing crazy.
Thanks, Cam, for answering my questions.
Yes. Here's my question. I typed out a long thing, but I think I can really shorten it up now that I've been out there thinking.
And this came from someone, or this is your question?
This is my question that I've just had this profound thought in my head. Recently, my wife passed away about 8 months ago, and I was really I'm trying to seek the Lord, and I was praying about it, and it's like something, like I think it was the Holy Spirit that told me, it's like, this happened to you, but it doesn't have to defy you. Like, I am who to me, it was the Holy Spirit speaking to me, and God telling me, like, hey, like, I'm supposed to be your identity, not this grief that you just hold on to for so long. You know what I mean? And my question was, I typed it out. It's like, well, here lately, I've just been doing the Cam show, like everything's about me and all that stuff, and I'm really trying to explore humility. But I guess I'm trying to make Christ my identity. But, sorry. Like, I feel like this is what I typed out and sent to him. The word identity gets thrown around a lot in the Christian community, and us as humans, we tend to latch onto things that are our identity, such as a job or a title. And then when something happens to you, such as my wife dying, it just, now I don't know who I am anymore. So I'm trying to rediscover myself, and I've been doing it my way, and I feel like the Lord's telling me, like, no, you got to do it my way. And so, my identity is supposed to be in Christ, so how do I balance that with, like, who I am? Like, I like working here and like getting on horses and all that stuff, but I'm supposed to be Christ-like, And I might be taking that like too literal. And then like what I typed out was clearly I'm not Jesus, but is making Christ your identity, just trying to be as much like Jesus every day.
Mm.
That's like my question.
I'm really sorry about your wife.
Does it make sense?
Yes,
What I asked,
sense.
I guess, I don't know.
Makes
It makes sense in my head.
Yes. Yes, I guess I start there just because I don't know what it's like to be asking that question, having gone through what you're going through. So I've never lost someone that close to me like that. I've been married, it'll be 17 years next month. So I guess I'm saying in some ways you are better able to answer that question than I am, because in trying to answer that question, you're doing so having this profound experience of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're having to work out trying to understand your identity in Jesus as a widow who never planned to be a widow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, one, there's a way in which you should feel a loss of identity in losing your wife, because that is unlike any other relationship, which you guys promise to each other, is that the two become one flesh. And so I just want you to know that there is probably a part of you feeling like, I don't know who I am anymore. And that's a testament to how deeply you loved her, and it's a testament to how much she meant to you. And it's a testament to how serious you took the promise that you made to God. And meaning not all hard emotions are bad emotions. Jesus said, blessed are those who mourn, for they'll be comforted. So there's a reaction to life where we're mourning, and we don't like our world. We don't like pain. We don't like seeing people cry. Like, think about how funny that is, that crying is one of the only emotions we apologize for. So when people start crying, they say, I'm sorry, because they know that it makes other people uncomfortable. But in Jesus's economy, you're blessed if you mourn, because that's a realistic response to a broken world, So you're in a stage of your grief, but you will be grieving in a way for the rest of your life, and that's okay. C.S. Lewis lost his wife, and when he described it, he said, her absence is like the sky. It expands over everything. In other words, I can't get away from the sky, and I can't get away from my wife's absence. And that's not a bad thing. So you're not trying to understand who you are in Jesus as somebody who now has to fill this gap left in your wife's absence. That gap will probably be there for the rest of your life. And it'll be the means that Jesus uses to keep you close to him for comfort. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so part of your identity, I don't know if you know this, but I gave Dale this Bible a long time ago, and I'll never forget that moment. He gave it to me at the beginning of the podcast, and I'd forgotten that I gave it to him. That's the joke. In 1 Peter, it says this. It says in verse 6, you rejoice in this now, though for a short time you have had to be distressed by various trials, so that the genuineness of your faith, more valuable than gold, which perishes, though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. What he's saying is that suffering does two things to people. Suffering either ruins you or it refines you. There's a way to respond to things like loss and death or sickness or something like that, where you look at your life and you say, I don't have any meaning anymore. I don't have any purpose anymore. And then the fire of suffering just ruins you. It makes you nothing. For somebody whose identity is in Jesus, suffering doesn't ruin, it refines. So your faith in Jesus is like, even the fact, Cam, that this is your question, going through what you're going through, there's like when you're saying, I lost this person I love, how do I become like Jesus in it? That tells me you're going to be okay. Because that's what you care about. And that's where your heart, and not that you've done it perfectly, not that you don't have frustrations, not that you don't have doubt or anger or anything like that. I don't know. We just met. I'm sure it's been a mixed bag of all those kinds of things. But that you want, that your life is open to Jesus and you're saying, okay, what do I do? Who am I now? How do I find my identity in you now, Jesus? It means that God is already using this suffering in your life like fire refining gold to make something about you just so unmistakably like Jesus. It won't happen. It's not happening. I guess my point is this. It's not happening independent of your suffering. It's actually happening through your suffering. The question you're asking, you're already answering just by being faithful to Jesus in it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you being like Jesus, your identity being in Christ, is going to come out of you in the same ways it comes out of me. It's the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And so that's going to come out of you and me the exact same. And you being like Jesus is going to come out of you differently than it does me, because we have different passions and interests and different stories. There's going to be a way that you look like Jesus through the lens of your own experience and story than I will, because I haven't gone through what you've gone through. Yeah. But I'm telling you, dude, if that text is where your heart is right now, in light of what you've gone through, the Lord's already at work in your life, profoundly at work in your life. So keep going and keep trusting.
Yeah, it hadn't always been like that. If you would have met me 8 months ago, you'd been like, this guy sucks. I don't have any other option. Like, either if I keep doing it my way and I'm going to die, like literally, or I change my life and try to make the best out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, that's like my only shot of seeing her again.
Mm-hmm.
I could waste my life away and just go to hell, and then it would be all for nothing.
Yeah.
To me, it would be.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for...
And I guess my question doesn't have to be just about like me. Like, yeah, what I've gone through sucks, but like I feel like there's a lot of people out there don't know who they are, but they're seeking the Lord and trying to find, it doesn't have to be that specific. Oh, your wife died, da 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 da. It could be with anything. Just like, I don't know, I just listened to this podcast. This guy, he was a Navy SEAL for however long, and then when he got out, no idea who he was because his identity was wrapped up in that. And then he got closer to the Lord and then realized, he could start living his life. Or God living through him gave him another sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what I'm trying to focus on. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's a guy named Augustine. Well, there was a guy named Augustine. He lived a couple thousand years ago. And he talked about following Jesus as rightly ordered loves, where it's like we all have these lesser loves in our life. You mentioned things that you love doing, and we all have that. There's things that I love. But then every person has a greatest love in their life, and it's the love that all of your other loves orient around,
Mm-hmm.
And part of how you form that identity in Jesus is making sure that your greatest love is Jesus, and then everything else is a lesser love. But here's the thing about that. I tell this to my girls all the time. I've got a daughter who will sometimes ask me, Dad, do you love me more than, like, I love coffee. So she'll be like, Dad, do you love me more than coffee? And I'm like, yes, I love you more than coffee. She's like, do you love me more than the Dallas Mavericks? And I'm like, yes, I love you more. And then she'll try to trick me. And she's like, do you love me more than Asher, which is her brother? And I'm like, that's a trap. Yeah. Yeah. And then she'll say, do you love me more than Jesus? And I'll say, no. And that's hard to say,
Yeah.
to your daughter. But the reality is this, and I'll tell her this: when I love Jesus most, I love you best. If I loved her more than Jesus, that makes her my God. And when dads make gods out of daughters, they ruin the relationship. But when I love Jesus most, it means I love her the way that I was supposed to love her. And it's like for all of us, when our identity is formed around Jesus as our greatest love, when we love Jesus most, we love this business best. We love our families best. We love our friends best. And in the way you know whether Jesus is the greatest love is you are willing to say, when needed, you're willing to choose Jesus over those other loves. You know, he's the love that you sacrifice for, and all the other loves have to orient around that sacrifice. And then practically, I mean, where this gets really hard is like, okay, so what does that mean for like what I do when I wake up in the morning or how I spend my time? And I don't know. I think that kind of stuff just is best worked out like in close community and relationships, you know?
I confuse myself with that a lot, like, because that thought comes in my head a lot. So, like, well, what am I making my God? And I play that game in my head a lot. And then I just quit doing something because I'm like, well, I'm idolizing it.
Yeah.
But then I don't think I necessarily have to, let's use bull riding for example. That's not why I stopped riding bulls, but I always thought that in my head, like I can get up so obsessed with this, it would become my God, and then I'm missing the point. And then I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
I do that all the time with everything. And it's like, I guess it's a way of trying to keep myself in check, but then, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm new to faith, but I'm more pursuing it now than I ever have. Because I grew up real religious, but it was rules, and I don't like following rules, and it made me hate it. But then my wife was really a big push for just having a relationship with the Lord. But then I get like, sorry, I'm kind of going off on missing the point. I go off, like I just drew a blank. Sometimes I struggle with like, loving Jesus more than everything because I'm comparing it to how I love my wife. My wife obviously is a physical thing. I'm talking to her, I see her every day, I touch her, and then I'm like, well, I have to love Jesus like that, but I don't know how because obviously he's not sitting right here next to me. I don't know how to. I struggle with that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's easy to be legalistic about it. It's easy to think that just because I enjoy something, that means I've made it a God, and I need to get rid of it. There is a Christian. I can't remember. There's a movie called Chariots of Fire that was made about his life. I don't remember his name. Keller writes about him a lot, and he said he has this famous quote: "When I run, I feel the pleasure of God." Where it's like God made him fast. He's an Olympic gold medalist, I think, and so there's a way to say him to look and be like, "Oh, I could make running God, and I could make running my God, and do it in a way that just glorifies me. And so maybe I should not do it at all." But what he said is, I actually feel close to God when I'm running, when I'm doing a thing that God made me to do, and I feel the pleasure of God. And I think we all, when we find the things that we love that God has gifted us for, we feel that in a sense where it's like, okay, even if this has nothing to do with like the Bible or, like preaching or something like that, there are things that we do that we enjoy. And God actually put us on this earth to enjoy the things that he's made as long as those things roll up into enjoying him. So one of the like easy, practical ways to like keep the heart in check about that is just to pursue gratitude, where it's like, if I'm worried that I'm loving this thing more than God, then I need to regularly give thanks to God for this thing, just as a reminder to myself and as an act of thanksgiving to God, to just say, this is a gift from you, God. This, whatever it is I'm doing that I love, it's a gift from you, and it's intended. It's like that thing where, on Christmas morning when I give my kids presents and they open the thing that they love and they immediately come and give mom and dad a hug and say, thank you for this thing. Because they know in the gift, behind the gift is a loving parent who wanted them to have this thing. What would feel really crummy is if they opened the gift and they never said thank you. You know what I mean? And they just immediately started, which has happened, but they're kids. But, that's the thing that God wants. The thing that God wants is for us to receive the gift of life that he's given us. Obviously, it's all about Jesus, but then to make sure that that enjoyment of the gift eventually makes its way into a thank you to God who gave the thing,
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I guess that you just had to humble yourself in that, like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, and what you've learned, and then learning, even if this thing is taken, even if this love is something that I don't have anymore, I'm going to trust God in that and not run from God in that. It's Job. The Lord gives and takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Mm-hmm. When it first happened, when my wife first passed away, everyone's like, "You got to read the story, Job. You got to read the story." I'm like, "I've heard it a million times. I've read it 2 or 3 times. Like, stop telling me that. I get it. I didn't want to hear it, but I don't know. That's just me being arrogant."
No, dude, I get it. Everyone wants to talk about Job unless they're going through what he went through.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I don't want to be Job,
Yeah, everyone uses that, like, got to be like Job, and then they're living in their high rise and nothing terrible has ever happened to you.
Yes, yes. And I really love the Proverbs, but there's also there's a proverb about that. It says, like a song in the morning is a good word to a heavy heart, or something like that. The idea is, there's a time for someone to like try to encourage you and pick you up, kind of thing. It's this, like a song to a heavy heart is like removing a garment on a cold day. In other words, if there's somebody who's like down and someone's like, "Hey, just trust God and cheer up," that's actually foolish, because again, blessed are those who mourn. Sometimes the right response when something goes wrong is to be sad about it, to grieve it, to mourn it. And there's a lot of people who they want to try to get you out of that, not for you, because it makes them uncomfortable. And so they come and they sing a song to a heavy heart.
Mm-hmm.
And they just regurgitate these platitudes. Not that these things aren't true, but there's a context in which to say them, like, God's got a plan and all those kinds of things. And I believe that. I do believe that. But sometimes the thing that is most needed in grief is people who, Job had bad friends. And that's a lot of the point of Job, is his friends came and his friends tried to tell him why it was all happening and all this. And eventually he's left alone because his friends weren't actual friends. They just wanted to try to make his suffering better for themselves or make sense to themselves. And it just leaves it, and it's just him and God. And God actually comes in and is the friend that he needs in his grief. But yeah.
Well, I could sit here and talk forever, but this is not my podcast, so.
Not yet.
Yeah. Yeah, not yet. You hear that?
It can be.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Cam.
See what I mean about him? Though
He's awesome.
he's just kind of You didn't know I was going to drop that bomb on you. In the middle, I was like, maybe I should have prepared. I was like, no, he can probably handle this.
I'm honored to do it.
Yeah. I've picked out like 3 more questions from the audience. This first one I think might be kind of funny, but what's your pet peeves about preachers? And then after that, we'll get really deep.
Preachers who don't know how many minutes good they are. Some preachers are 55 minutes good, and they can preach for 55 minutes, and you leave, and you feel like, oh, I could have sat there for another hour. Other preachers are only about 25 minutes good. And when a 25-minute good preacher thinks he's 55 good, that's a long Sunday morning. That is a long Sunday morning. That's like maybe a sillier one. Another one is just the when a preacher doesn't either one way, two errors. You have to start with the Bible. It's like it literally is the word of God. And so our words should all be just a explanation of God's word. But some preachers, and so they skip that and they run to the, here's 5 steps you can take to be more generous or something like that. That's not bad. But I think good preaching is a mix of explaining God's word and then applying it. So the way I've said it is it's making the meaning of the passage matter to the people. So what it meant then is what it means now. You have to explain the meaning of it. But then matter to the people, it's like preaching, the verse we preached last Sunday, 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7, I preached that verse differently in Plano, Texas, where I preached it. I would preach it differently if I was, preaching to, 7th graders in New York City. So there's a context that matters in it. Yeah.
Okay, next question: predestination or free will?
Yeah. Well, predestination, the question is actually, what is God's predestining based on? So those two things are actually not the things that are pitted against each other. So if you read, predestination is in the Bible. In other words, God's election, even this, who are God's people in the Old Testament?
Jews?
Yep, Israelites, not the Egyptians. So why the Israelites and not the Egyptians? So God's election is all over the Bible. The question is, what is God's election based on? Is it based on, you've got an open one right there.
That's empty, baby.
Oh, okay. And what are those again?
Ranch Fuel.
And where do I get them?
Ranchfuel.com.
Okay.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to have plenty of ads in this. Yeah, we're going to take breaks. Speaking of, have you not even noticed? Isn't that the greatest painting?
That's pretty. Humility. Yeah, that's humility.
We thought about AI and my muscles, but we just went ahead and went all natural.
Yeah, that's unedited.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's my girlfriend. She goes to a different school.
The
That's
belt
why you
buckle's
don't know her.
too small. I would love to ask somebody's opinion of that if I get to see her later. So election is in the Bible. So it's not predestination or no predestination. It's, okay, God does elect. He predestines. Why? What's it based on? Is it based on God's sovereign choice? Or is it based on God electing those he knew would choose him? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, as best it could.
Okay.
To my small mind.
So the question is, does God elect based on something in God? Or does God elect based on something in the people he chooses? So God saves Cam because he knew that Cam would say yes to him. Or God saves Cam because God's just merciful and he chose Cam to follow Jesus. Those are kind of the options.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any more sense?
It does.
Okay. And I don't know.
Yeah.
There are verses in the Bible that are whosoever will may come, where there seems to be this open invitation to any who say yes to the gospel. And then there are verses in the Bible that place the onus and weight of that just on the heart of God, the plans of God. I lean more towards, I would rather my salvation be in God's hands than my own. So I lean more towards God's sovereign election just being based on the plans and purposes of God. Not that God chose me because he knew I would choose him, but that God chose me because he had set his love on me, because he's merciful like that. In fact, you hear this phrase throughout the New Testament used about God, according to the mercy of God. According to the mercy of God. So it doesn't say according to the decision of man. It's according to God's mercy. And I know this. I know that when Jesus comes back and we get our chance to work all this out, whatever we discover about God, we're going to agree was the best thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's also a way to kind of punt the question.
What about gay marriage? If you're against it, then you gay, dog.
That's what the question says?
Mm-hmm.
If you're against gay marriage, then you're gay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was a fun one.
That's amazing.
There's a lot of questions in here. I'm just kind of picking out the ones that, I think are most mature.
Yeah, thanks. Can I talk to Cam again?
Yeah.
Man, I'm a Bible guy. God created man and woman. He created marriage as a holy covenant between a man and a woman.
And a boy. There you go.
And so
So it sounds like you gay.
Here's the thing, though. I think there's this idea out there that
the way I would like this question answered is basically like, for a Christian that believes what you just said, how do we day to day in 2025 deal with that opposing viewpoint that's more and more popular?
Yeah, I think it starts. There's this idea that that if you have same-sex desires and you follow Jesus, it means you have to suppress those desires. And the reality is, everyone who follows Jesus has sexual desires that are incompatible with following Christ. Everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you are attracted to the same gender or whether you're attracted to the opposite gender, Jesus said, if you look after a woman and lust for her, you've committed adultery in your heart. So everyone, we might have different sexual desires, but everyone is on the most damaging sins I've ever committed are sexual sins. The most I've ever hurt anyone in my life was through my own sexual sin. It was a long time ago, and there's freedom and deliverance from all of that in Christ. But it's like, I think what I would want Christians to know is it really, as much as others want to make the conversation like an us versus them, we are all sexual sinners in profound need of the grace of Jesus. And anyone who follows Christ has to lay down their sexual desires in order to say yes to him. Now, that might look different for different people depending on what those desires are.
Mm-hmm.
But my sexual wiring is such that I have desires that are sinful. And I'm not, in other words, nobody is naturally in their own self monogamous. Nobody only has desires for their spouse. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there can be freedom and deliverance that comes in that, but it's like, for me to follow Jesus, it means I am faithful to Jesus by being faithful to Carrie, and even the lingering lustful thoughts have to be surrendered, have to be confessed to others and surrendered to Jesus. And so I think the starting place for Christians who believe what the Bible teaches about sexual ethic, the starting place for Christians engaging in that conversation is by committing themselves to a righteous life. The porn industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the most recent statistics is that Christian men, I think the last time I saw it was like 40% or something like that, report that they, actively consume pornography. And it's like, look, it's a pretty, and there's grace for that. There's mercy and all of that for those who are seeking to be free. But it's a pretty, it's pretty tone deaf for those who want to, stand on a biblical view of marriage if they're not also practicing righteousness and purity in their personal life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that's one thing that the internet has really kind of propelled forward. But anyway, thankfully I've not had an issue with it. Only a handful of times in college, but anyways. Pun intended. Anyway, Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
How should we as believers view what's going on right now?
So that's going to depend on how you read a lot of scriptures. So if you
because it's changing like by the day.
Yeah.
And so as we're watching the news, what is historically and biblically what's unfolding right now?
That's really, really hard to answer. So you're going to find people who take a Bible verse and take the most recent news headlines and say, see, this is what it was talking about. The problem with that is people have done that for centuries and been wrong. So every generation thinks that they're the generation that is seeing the end times happen right in front of their eyes. And then they have come and gone, and we still are where we are, you know. Mm-hmm. I think where this is going to be similar to the politics thing, because I have a lot more I don't knows around all that than I have answers. I know this, that as a Christian needs to always, at all times, grieve any loss of life. War is not a good thing. War is not a good thing. So Palestinian death, Israeli death, those things grieve the heart of God because it's his image bearer. So the same value that would make us say we think babies in womb should be protected, that value would say we think dead bodies, that just, casualties of war, those should be grieved. Now, obviously there's different circumstances and nuances and all that, but I don't, my own personal take in all of it is I think when Jesus rose from the dead and he invites Jews and Gentiles into his discipleship of following him, that becomes the people of God. So the nation of Israel is a nation, but they are not part right now of the meaning I've been to Israel. Just because you have citizenship in the nation of Israel does not mean that you are part of the people of God, because the people of God are composed of those who know, love, trust, and obey Jesus. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, some of the most significant things that happened in the story of the Bible happened right there in that country. Obviously, that's where Jerusalem is. That's where Jesus was crucified. That's where he rose again. It's the promised land where the people were led, out of slavery and eventually made it in there to build the first temple and then the second temple and all those kinds of things. But I think I'm just really, really slow to try and apply what the Bible says about what will happen to what's happening right now, because I think there's just a lot of room for error in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think God holds countries to a Romans 13 standard of justice, that they are to use the sword to do good and to punish evil. So what a Christian can do is a Christian can look at those different governments and look at those different groups and say, are they using the authority that God has given them as a country to promote good and to punish evil? Another thing that you're not asking?
Tell me.
I think one of the like things that whole thing has just captured the attention in times, all that kind of stuff that has captured the attention of so many people. And it's like, okay, is this happening? So a video that gets posted that says 10 signs that we're 10 years away from the return of Christ. That thing is going to get a lot of views. A lot of views. All that's unknown. So that's the unknown. In 1 Thessalonians, Paul says that the return of Christ is going to be like a thief in the night. You know who expects the thief to come at night? No one. That's why it works. That's why you get robbed. If you knew he was coming, then you don't get robbed. So the return of Jesus is like a thief in the night. What it means is we're not going to know when Jesus is going to come back. So I have a hard time with all of these really bold proclamations of we know that Jesus is coming back when Jesus himself said, we don't know when I'll come back. There's some people that get so caught up in that, and that's the unknown will of God. The unknown will of God is when we'll do. But we have the known will of God about a lot of things. We have the known will of God that we should love our neighbors, and the known will of God that we should, seek to bear the fruits of the Spirit, and the known will of God that we should be generous to those who are in need. And if you post a video online about 10 ways to be a better, more Christ-like neighbor, that's not getting as many views as the 10 signs that Jesus is 10 years from coming back or whatever. And so I think why it matters is if the average Christian would just commit their life to the known will of God in where God has put them in their home, in their city, in their community, in their church. So many of the things we're afraid of, I'm not saying they'd go away, but if the average Christian would just commit to the known will of God, the witness of the church in the country, in the world, would be much more honoring to the Lord.
I guess what made me ask the question is not necessarily the end times part. It's more just nervousness around us going to war again, and our involvement. Should we be involved? And just what happens if we do? And the worry of, like what it looks like for Winnebago, Texas, if World War III kicks off. Yeah. But
I know that's what you were asking, but I wanted to say all those other things anyway.
Gotcha.
So thanks for letting me do that. Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's even just not necessarily a question in and of itself, just because, I don't know. I've been messaging my former combat veteran friends, present friends, former combat veterans, about, what their thoughts are. And I don't know. They're not super hopeful.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. My oldest is 14. My youngest is 7. And I do worry about what world will they inherit when they're trying to raise their own kids.
Right.
What gives them kids, I worry about that. I also know that Jesus promised that the gates of hell won't prevail against his church. So as much as I love and appreciate and am grateful for the freedoms we have as a country, I do have a lot of confidence that the church will survive no matter what happens,
Mm-hmm. Cool. Is there anything else that I wanted to ask that I didn't?
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
What's something that you think about from our couple of years running around? What's a story that you think about?
Man, I think a lot about being in the truck with your dad. We drove, I can't remember, we were going from like Childress back to Amarillo or something like that. And somehow it ended up just me and him in the truck together. And that was a difficult season of life for y'all, for him. And just to hear someone be so honest and so full of faith at the same time. I have been around that since, but then was one of the first times I'd ever encountered that in someone, to be broken and hopeful in Jesus at the same time. I think about that a lot.
We used to say strength and honor, but
Yeah.
like over the years, I've realized like I think the two attributes that would be like faith and loyalty would really be like what those two words mean. But we said that, but what it meant from him was like faith and loyalty.
Yeah. You remember where that was from?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Another one was we were at another small rodeo, West Texas, and your dad broke his arm. You remember that? Broke his forearm.
Childress.
And y'all sent me out there to do the cowboy protection. So not the clown, but the guy that shoots the
the bullfighter.
Yeah. And I think I was wearing like these really old New Balance or Reeboks or something like that. I did not at that point own a cowboy hat. So I was probably dressed something like this. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't know how to do this. And you're like, it's fine. Just basically when he gets bucked off, just run in front of the bull and he'll chase you instead. And I'm like, again, I don't want to do this. And I did it. And I think I did one and it was fine. It just ended up being like a non-event. But the second one, I get out there and I think within a second or something, guy gets bucked off. And it's me and the bull's like right there where the table is. And then cowboy's on the ground. And I go to run in between the bull and the cowboy and I slip just straight into the dirt. So then I'm in between the bull and the cowboy. I did my job, but I'm on the ground. And that bull put his nose right down into my neck. I could just all wet and snotty and all that. And he pushed me into the dirt. And I thought, I'm dead. I'm going to die right here. And it'll be Dale's fault. And then he just left. He just ran away and ran off. And then I was like, I quit that day, I think. Went and worked at Sonic or something. But when I tell people that story now, nobody believes me that actually happened.
Yeah, I think that one was in Brownwood. What's the other Brown that's over close to Lubbock?
Brownsville?
Because there's
No,
one
that's south.
There's one. I think Brownsville is like South Texas. There's Brownwood. Isn't there another Brownfield? It's over by Lubbock. It was in Brownfield.
Well, I'm never going back.
Yeah, and no, I remember that because I remember you and I in the arena. Yeah.
So is that not the same one where your dad broke his arm?
He broke his arm in Childress. It was like a week apart. It was same summer, but yeah.
What was that one bull that everyone was afraid of?
Hector.
Yeah.
He had like one horn was a little longer than the other. And he had a short horn on one side, and I always went to that side. And eventually, he figured me out.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hector.
He was unstable.
Unstable.
Yeah, he had a rough childhood or something.
Yeah. He would, whenever you bucked him, whenever he bucked right there, he would not hook anyone. He was a good bucking bull, and we would always buck him last because he'd buck the guy off, and he would take off to the end of the arena. And then once he got to the other end, that's when he would fight. And so he'd be the last bull to buck, and then we would fight him on the other end of the arena to sell the show, and everybody go home.
Yeah.
And my dad sold him as a bucking bull. And so we told them, and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. He'll fight on the other end. But anyways, they didn't. And so the first time they bucked him at a rodeo, he bucked the guy off, and then he sold out and went to the other end. And everybody's just like, oh, okay, well, y'all go get him out. So the pickup men drive him to this other end, and he hooks everybody around the buck and shoots because they just had not remembered or listened to my dad when he sold them. But I mean, like the gate men, the judge, like he hooked like several people because that was his thing. He's like, he made that lap, and now he's ready to fight. And we all knew that. But anyway, that was a funny thing about Hector. But
you remember that same summer we were riding horses, I think it was at y'all's place in Memphis. And I was riding, you were behind me, you rode up right next to me jumped off of your horse right onto a rattlesnake. You remember this?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. You saw it. You thought I was about to ride over it. I didn't even hear it. And you literally jumped off your horse onto its head and killed it. And I was like, if that's what it takes to live this life, I'm just not going to make it. You know?
I remember killing a rattlesnake. I don't remember it going down like that. I mean, I believe you, but I do remember us killing a rattlesnake.
Yeah. I think you were wearing that when you did it.
Okay.
Yeah. She wasn't there.
Yeah. Yeah. That was snakes they scare me. They don't scare me if I know where they are. Like a rattlesnake. Mm-hmm. Like my dad, but there's people that like, but if I know he's right there, I was like, all right, well, let's go over and kill him. But they don't scare me, and that might be and probably is unhealthy for sure. Mm-hmm. But that's just kind of where I'm at. Like I don't know. But if I know they're there, if I don't know one's there and he just sneaks up on this chair, I mean that'd scare anybody. But
maybe you didn't know it was there, and you just happened to fall on it and kill it.
Yeah.
And then after it happened, you're like, "You're welcome, guys."
Oh, bucked me off. Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, I think now that I remember, like, you know, you just have been like adamant about staying in the Metroplex, and I've tried to tell you like we should start a church out here so you could live out here, but there's just no chance, huh?
Man,
you need your Whole Foods.
It's more like all the Mexican restaurants.
We have those.
Yeah,
there's 2 in Graham.
Yeah,
don't even worry.
Yeah, they're probably a little different.
Better, I'm sure. It's not Chewy's. It's not a line. It's not Papacitas.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I do want my kids to get to experience this. I know that.
You should have like a little camp, a little summer camp at Dale's.
Yeah.
And come out and hang out with Uncle Dale.
Oh,
and you can come with him.
Yeah.
I mean, because y'all's knowledge level on the stuff out here is probably about the same.
Yeah, so you'd have to.
We can get Asher to ride a bull.
Yeah.
I'm sure Carrie would love that.
She'd love that. Yeah.
She probably wouldn't be as opposed to it as you would be.
I mean, I think the one you'd have to really convince is Asher. Yeah, that'd be the.
Yeah, I forgot. He's going to be
the big hurdle. Yeah. Do they have to call you Uncle Dale?
Yeah, that's kind of part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as Carrie doesn't have to, that's great.
Yeah. But no, we got a bunkhouse and an Airbnb. Dude, y'all should come out for 2 or 3 days.
That'd be so much fun.
Yeah. We'll just like ride some horses and do something, shoot some guns.
It'd be awesome.
Give them their first dip of tobacco. Just really live the life. I've never dipped. Right. That'd make me sick, so we won't do that. But
cool. All at the same time.
Yeah.
Guns, bulls.
Yeah. Do it all at the same time.
Tobacco.
Yeah, we usually wrap up with life advice. Somebody did ask, what's your favorite scripture? Or just your favorite one-liner from.
Yeah, usually my favorite scripture is like the last one I preached. Because I've spent time with it, and so right now it would be that 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Love you, dude.
Love you too, my man. We'll have you back in a couple of years. Unless we do that camp soon. Yeah. We'll do that. Thanks, everybody. I'm Dale Brisby. I'm on to the next one. Pow, pow. And go read your Bibles.
Amen.
Amen.